Are we live? Hello, hello. Live streaming. Yeah. So hello. We are live streaming. Let me let me explain briefly what we are doing here. So we are building a large language model using Rust, and Rust is a programming language. A lot of people love it, and surely I also love it. And also we are building an LLM from scratch. So essentially, we are combining the two most exciting things in this field right now. And we did a lot of stuff previously. And yeah, so this is my learning journey on how to build an LLM from scratch in Rust without knowing anything about Rust. And so yeah, let me kind of go over what we did so far. So here we have the function, we read the text, we have a txt file, a bunch of a bunch of text that we are going to use for building our large language model. And yeah, after we import this into our program, we count the number of characters, then we slice this string, and then from that we use regular expression. And yeah, the good thing about regular expression is that they are the same across any language, so you only need to learn these once, and or not learning at all and always look for it. And yeah, and today's world is better if you use AI, and that's it, right? But we are going to do a different approach. So yeah, after we have that, we process into a vector string. In Python, this will be equivalent to have a list of strings. And then yeah, so we trim out the, the space, and from that space we count the number of tokens that we have in this file. And from that file we use b3 map, and just because we want to iterate. And after that we have we have an ID and a word. So we are follow with Sebastian Rashka building LLM from scratch book. And yeah, this is a pulley repository, so you can go over this anytime you want. And yeah, as you can see, we have the words, and you have the IDs, which will be helpful to build our vocabulary. But now we're going to store the fun part for some people, not Carpati. But yeah, the fun part is will be the tokenizer. So yeah, I mean, in Rust we don't have class per se. We have struct, and that struct we pass yeah into a function, and then those functions are what we can get as a tokenizer. So if you want to use AI, you can just pass this and put me into Rust, but I don't know if that will retain the same behavior. Let me just run so you can see what we have so far. Okay, can we run? Yeah, so we have a word and we have a ID. It doesn't match completely to what we have in or what Sebastian has, but I don't want to worry about that much. I just want to move on, and then we can fix those issues later. But now I do want to create this tokenizer, and perhaps we need to build it as a struct, right? I think we did mention that in the previous video. So okay, how can I create? let me think about the question. So since we are not going to use AI, we need to think about how can we translate. One thing that I did do when I was learning Python and I was coming from a Rust background is that I use the a lot of reference. So I know how to do this in R, for example. I want to do this. I want to do in Python this that I do already in R. So I think we just need to follow the same principles. How can we do a class, a Python class, or what's the equivalent to a Python class in Rust? And I think it is a struct, but let's see. What's the equivalent to a class in Rust? Okay, so yeah, I think okay, so yeah, the concept that I was looking for is oriented programming, which is essentially what class is. But yeah, as I mentioned, I always like to start with Reddit or Stack Overflow, and then we can go to the documentation, which is pretty cool. Let me see Reddit. Okay, or the programming. Rust has objects, but it doesn't have inheritance. Generally, you will not want to do object-oriented programming in Rust. You will want to rewrite the code to work in terms of threads, enums, and composition instead. Yeah, so I think what it's saying here is that you can build objects, but you don't want to go to the object-oriented programming in Rust just because you do want to rewrite code, and that's because Rust serves two different purposes, and those purpose doesn't really require having object-oriented programming. So yeah, that's what I understood here. Let me see if we can find. I'm still beginner in Rust and I'm stuck 4 years ago. I hope you did okay, my friend. I hope you did okay. Let me, yeah, thumbs up. Hope you did okay. Yeah, I'm still a beginner in Rust and I'm stuck on a point concerning the threads. Despite many attempts, I can't find a code equivalent in Rust for abstract class. Here's an example of TypeScript code using them. Yeah, but I mean, asking this question, I think it deviates from the point that I want, and maybe how to create a struct struct in struct in Rust. Yeah, yeah. I think we did see it last time. But yeah, let's just check. Okay, so this is I love this documentation because it's so well organized and you can also run things for yourself here. So let's try to think about just skim to see if it works, and if it is helpful we could try to use it. So okay, defining extension instructs active user. I mean, yeah, we can start with this, right? Because I don't know what we define here, but yeah, the vocabulary, and then from vocabulary to to string, right? And then we have a bunch of processing. So we don't really define, but we do have variables. Okay, so let user. Okay, so this is the struct activate. Okay, so it looks like I'm using this as a template to fill out, and that's what I'm doing here. But I don't know if I do want that. Yeah, because the thing is I don't have that many variables that I want to define, and I don't have that many templates. I just want to have something that create the tokenizer, if that makes sense. So instead of having this, I want to create a function, and from that function having yeah. Okay, let me see this. So you have struct color, struct point. So what is a struct? I mean, yeah. Let's try to define what is a struct in Rust. So a struct or structure is a custom data type that lets you package together and name multiple related values that make up a meaningful group. If you're familiar with object-oriented language, a struct is like an object data attributes. In this chapter, we will compare and contrast tuples with structs to build on what you already know and demonstrate when structs are a better way to group data. We will demonstrate how to define and instantiate structs. We will discuss how to define associative functions, especially the kind of associative functions called methods, specific specify behavior associated with a struct type. Structs and enums discussed in chapter 6 are the building blocks for creating new types in your program's domain to take the full advantage of cross compile time type checking. So I think structs does help. I think it is helpful because so essentially what is, I just want to cut out the noise here. A struct is just a template that allows you to relay something that is defined as a group. So for instance, I can use the same Python example that I always you import for animal, and you have a cat and dog. So yeah, I think it defines that, and you can also have methods and functions. So that would be pretty cool if we can know how to do that. Yeah, yeah. An example programming using structs. So yeah, width and height, print the area of the rectangle. Okay. Yeah, but is that a struct? No, I don't think so. Refactoring with tuples and refactoring with structs. Okay. Okay, so we have the width and we have the height. Then let rectangle. Okay, so yeah, so this would be the part of this struct, right? Print area rectangle, find area. Hmm. Yeah, I do want to build the tokenizer here. So class simple tokenizer v1. Maybe I can just put struct, right? Okay, I think we can do this outside and we just put struct. Let's just put it upside and define what that is a struct, and then let me check this out. Yeah, tokenizer, tokenizer. I think it's b1. It is b1. Yeah, let me just copy and paste. I don't want to spend time thinking about how is it called. Okay, so how what's the definition, or how do you, I don't want that. I don't want this either. Let me see this. Mm-mm. Okay, so simple tokenizer B1. Okay, so yeah, what do I want to do? I want to process, yeah, I think we can define this out, but we also can have the encode. How can I define methods in the struct? Let me check. Okay, method syntax exchange the area function that has a rectangle instance as a parameter, and instead make an area method defined on the rectangle struct as shown in listing 513. Okay, let me check this out. So this is a keyword, right? So to define the function within the context of rectangle, we start an implementation block for the rectangle, which is this one. So everything that I want to put it, okay, so I need to define the struct like template. Then in PL, then I can call simple tokenizer. I know I'm not sure if this is correct, but let just put pre-process because I think it's the same name that it pre-process. Okay. And what did Sebastian define as pre-process? Or no, it's not pre-process. Is encode. Let me put encode and code self. I don't know what's the type. I don't know what's so yeah, so what I'm doing here is I just try to copy the tokenizer template, and from what I'm seeing here, struct is how is like the template, and it would be the equivalent to the class. But if you want to have methods such as what Sebastian have here, so this is the class and each one of these are the methods. So if you want to have that, this is the implementation keyword, and yeah, you need to call the simple tokenizer, and then you have the function which will be equivalent to encode, and then you can have the text here, and from that text is the one that you are going to pass into this method. But the good part is I already have this defined here. I mean, it's kind of like I'm doing the same thing, but I just put it into this tokenizer, and I have the encode function and the code function. But I don't know if that will work. You know, that's what I don't know, but it should. So yeah, let's keep going. So we have the tokenizer, which already as a struct, and then from that we implemented the method. So the first method will have we need to return the IDs. Yeah. Okay, let's return the ID. Okay, let's return the ID. So that's the goal for of this encode. So I pass the text, and that text gets processed, and it returns the ID. So it's exactly the same on what we did here. Let me let me okay. Essentially the same on what we did here at this stage, where okay, we have the string, then we count. I don't need this, I don't need this either, but I think I do need the regular expression, obviously. So raw text. Okay, raw text to string. So yeah, I do need this. So I'm creating a string out of that. I'm creating the string, then I'm passing the regular expression. This is how I define the regular expression, and that regular expression is what I convert into the vectors of strings, the vector of string. Okay, let me put this out. Let me put this out. Okay, so I have the text, and let me see if I can see it here. Okay, this is an example. This is an example. So I have this. I have the rectangle. I have the definitions, which I don't have here currently, but I do have the implementation, which will be the rectangle. Then I define the function will be encode. Okay, so yeah, I still don't know what this self is or does, or if I do need this keyword. I'm not really sure. Okay, let me see if I can have it, if I have it here. So the same. No, I don't have the implementation. Yeah, I don't have the implementation here either, but I do have it here. Let's see if there is another example. No. Another example, another example. No, no, no. Okay, the implementation can hold. Okay, so yeah, I do like this. So okay, I am going to define area and can hold in the same space. So after I close, I put fn and the code. Then I put this symbol self and self would be IDs perhaps. Yeah, because the code is going from, I don't know if I need to define here. Maybe I do, but if I don't, I won't put it there. Yeah, I just because I Pythonist and yeah, I just remember myself don't do that, but I forgot. Okay, so here I'm doing the encoding part, self that text, and the processing of text. Yeah, yeah, regular expression, which will be here. Then I strip out. Okay, then okay, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm defining, I'm doing the encoding, self that text, then that this I use regular expression to create the process without, yeah, without symbols. Then I process and I strip out the white space, and but I have a list of strings. So that's my goal here, is to have a list of strings. And yeah, and that's exactly what we are at the pre-process stage. But now I do want to have the only the IDs. Yeah, that's a bit tricky, right? Because I need to pass this out and only return the IDs. And I don't know if that's even possible, you know? Yeah. Do you think this would be possible? Mhm. Okay, so I have the encoding, I have the self, the text that will I will pass into as a string, and then I process this. I have the regular expression, and from that regular expression, I create a vector of strings, and from that vector of strings I create a vocabulary which enumerates or stores. Yeah, I mean, I think I can have, instead of this, I can have the IDs, and I can have IDs and insert only the n, which I will have here. And how can I return it? And if I do this, can I return that from, yeah, because I have the struct, right? And from that struct I create this implementation. But how can I get the result? I mean, the result gets contained there because, yeah, let check this out. I mean, I have the struct rectangle. Then if I want to get, so yeah, if I ask for the area, so yeah, I have the rectangle, and if I ask, only asking for the data, okay, so I don't have to return anything. It doesn't seem like it, right? Okay, self has this keyword first, self that this keyword, okay. Okay, so okay, so I have this simple tokenizer. Struct. Then I pass the rectangle, which is the encode. Then when I go to main, I create a struct, which in this case would be this. Yeah, because it's raw text, right? Yes. Yeah, but I can call it raw text, right? Yeah, but it is raw text. From that raw text, it is raw text, and from that raw text, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking because I don't see it clearly. maybe maybe it's late. Maybe it's late, but this is in code. I have the raw text. The raw text goes here. And okay, if I wanted to import, if I want to import, I need to do before everything. So raw text will be, I need to define the struct, which in this case would be simple tokenizer v1, simple tokenizer v1, and then I put it here. Yeah, because I should get the ID no matter. Oh, yeah, because the simple tokenizer could have the vocab, right? Hmm. because I just want to encode. Let me check this out. So what is happening here is I have the regular expression and I have the text. Then I process the item string to integer. Okay. Yeah, so I'm iterating over the elements of the vocabulary, right? Yeah, but I don't know. Okay, let me let's recap what we did. So essentially what we have so far is that we have the template for the tokenizer. We don't have the tokenizer per se. We just have a template. We already know that we have a struct, and from that struct that we can use an implementation, and then we can define a function. Ideally, that function will create whatever you want, but it uses the template. From what I'm seeing here, I should have the vocabulary in the struct itself and then import it, and from that import I can do this without having to create everything that I have so far. But yeah, maybe I just tired of 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 trying. But let's keep it for the next session. I mean, one thing that is great to see and to know is that not all days need to be an amazing learning experience, and not all days you need to fulfill some type of requirement. Sometimes it is okay if you just relax a little and try just to have something going, and then from there you can iterate over several things. And yeah, because that will give you a peace of mind, that will give you something to work on, but more importantly creating consistency, and even be okay with not completing a full solution, but just having the template. And I think having the template can help a lot. I think we can do a lot better just creating the function and the implementation, but we just need to try to go a bit deeper into the struct and the implementation and see how it works, and even run some demos example to have a better idea on how to work with it. So yeah, I think we that's it for now. Let's just keep it this and try to just go back and study, and we will see next week. Please remember to subscribe so we can grow a bit more and have more people joining for these sessions. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to what we are going to achieve with this. So yeah, okay guys, take care.